College football week 14, Dan. It's championship week. We've got 10 games. We've got all sorts of things to get into. It is going to be a lively show, good sir. How are you this fine day?
I'm the best, Ty. I'm the best. And this is something we've been looking forward to for quite some time, as teams have either been undefeated or on the outside of the playoff or have an opportunity to close their season in a big way, whether it's in the MAC, whether it's in the SEC, whether it's in Conference USA, whether it's in the Pac-12. I don't remember a championship week that we've gone into with as many different, enormous, fascinating storylines, both self-contained within Friday, Saturday, and also with postseason implications. So I'm ready and I'm hyped, Ty.
Do we have a name for this week, or are we going to forego that because it's just championship week? It needs no introduction.
I would love to just call it championship week, but I feel like that would be doing our listeners and viewers a disservice after naming so many Saturdays. And I was thinking to myself, as I'm making these picks, I don't want to be like, well, they have a good defense, but on the other hand, they have a good offense. This week, I'm doing a blanket lock for my picks.
A blanket lock?
A blanket lock. I feel that good about my picks because, look, we have the most data. Look, this is sort of pre-portal, except for Boise State losing their best receiver a few weeks ago.
I feel less confident about all of these picks than I have all season.
That's a you problem. That's not on me, Ty.
Okay.
That's an issue that you need to go back on and meditate, Ty. I don't have time for you to be like, well, Alabama's good, but Georgia's good too, so who's to say? No. That is not what this is a championship for us as well, Ty.
All right.
So as I'm making these picks and I'm saying blanket lock, I'm thinking to myself, well, the Oregon-Washington game, well, Texas-Oklahoma State, well, Toledo-Miami of Ohio. I want to leave no doubt with my pick, Ty. I want to say this is who I am on Stefani Saturday.
You and me
have to be strong-willed with our picks, Ty. And if we're not, we're doing everybody a disservice. So I want you to really speak with your chest. I want you to tell me, I want to say something, support it. And if we get it wrong, we get it wrong, and that's okay. Why?
We're just normal men.
We're just normal men who make mistakes sometimes. But we're still going to speak with our chests. Who?
You and me.
So there we are.
All right. Well, look, I'm here for it. I think the Verballerhood is as well.
Yeah.
There's only one rematch among the 4 Power 5 championship games this weekend. Only 2 rematches among the group of 5 championship games that we'll talk through. So you're going to get at least 7 new matchups,
Can't wait.
Many of which I think we've been excited about. We've seen coming for a good long time. We're going to get into all 10 of those games and maybe a few extras just for good measure. Don't forget, go on out to verballers.com and get in on Run the Board. It's the final week of Run the Board, the Pick'em game. You've got 10 games in front of you. We'll talk through those as we go through the course of the next hour or so. You'll also get ad-free episodes and full Monday episodes and a list of additional bonus items by joining verballers.com. But Run the Board this week is for a $100 credit to our friends over at pristineauction.com. Freaking awesome website.
Yeah.
And also a $200 Amazon gift card. Because why not? It is the reason for the season. Maybe you got to buy something for yourself. Maybe you got to buy something for a loved one. You can find whatever you need out there. $200 over on Amazon.com. So this is a big one. It's the final pick'em week of the season, and we are going to go out on a high note.
Verballers.com.
Verballers.com. Shall we get to our picks and predictions?
Stefani Saturday. Let's do it.
Dan, Ty, help. I need picks of the week.
Dan, let's start with a Friday game. Normally we don't do this, but it's championship week, and we're going to walk you through the weekend in chronological order. It seems like a logical thing to do. This one's being played Friday night, 8 p.m. on ABC. Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. You ever been?
I have not. I've been to Las Vegas. I've never been to this stadium.
Your Oregon Ducks at 11-1, minus 9.5, squaring off against the Washington Huskies. That one loss for the Oregon Ducks came way back when against the Washington Huskies, 36-33, back on October the 14th. It was a great game, one of the best we've seen all season. The key moment in that game was Oregon taking a risk. Riverboat gambler Dan Lanning decides he's going for it on 4th down about midfield to try and ice the game. They did not get it. They gave the ball back to Michael Penix Jr. Washington scored in 2 plays. Even still, Oregon got the ball back. They went 50 yards. They missed a 43-yarder at the gun. And I think that is an appropriate backdrop for what might be the best game of the weekend. We can debate the merits of that, but
Sure.
Since then, Oregon's been murdering teams. They've been licking their chops for another crack at Washington. Washington's been winning, but not separating. It's been like 8 straight wins, or I don't have the exact number, but a bunch of wins in a row, all less than 10 points. Where are you at with this game? Oregon alumni Dan Rubenstein.
All right, so I'll echo what you like to say off the air, right? That you need that sweet, sweet D. And that's defense, that's depth, and that's Dan Lanning, okay?
Okay.
And maybe it's a double D situation, right? It's Dan Lanning versus DeBoer, Dan versus DeBoer. I think Oregon wins comfortably in this game. And if you're a Washington person, if you're a neutral person, and you say to yourself, well, Dan has a rooting interest in Oregon, he's just being a homer here. I hate picking Oregon comfortably. I've been hating picking Oregon comfortably for 15 years. It scares me to do so, but I think I'd be doing, hey, here's another sweet D, Ty, a disservice to our listeners if I were to sit here and tell you it's going to be close, or I think Washington has the edge. My feeling is, because of the Oregon defense, because of the depth they've built up, they were not playing with a key linebacker who has been a big deal for this defense, Justin Jacobs, in that first matchup against Washington. And when I look at this Washington team, I don't see the depth. I don't see the defense consistently. Now, they play opportunistic defense. They've played fourth quarters relatively well. We saw the big turnover last week in the second half. Like, they come up with they're playmakers on this defense. I think the pass rush has come alive relatively recently. But when I look at the difference in this game, Michael Penix has not been playing super well. And you can say, well, the weather was really bad in Corvallis. Weather was fine last week against Wazoo. And something has happened to this Washington offense, whether it's injury, whether it's defenses figuring out new tactics, whether it's in the pass rush, whether it's keeping safeties back and making Washington nickel and dime them a little bit more. They look a little bit shook on offense in the way they didn't look in that first half of the season, whereas I think Oregon has only gotten stronger on offense. Now, you brought up the riverboat gambler thing on Oregon's offense, and when you go back to last year's Washington game, the Oregon State game last year, and then Washington games this year, they were especially bad in the red zone, not taking the field goal before the half, and certainly those high leverage fourth down moments, the big one midfield late. How'd it work against Oregon State last week?
Yeah.
Worked pretty well.
Yeah.
They didn't even find themselves in really too many high leverage, third, fourth downs. So I think they're going to be in a great place here. And when a team gets stronger over the course of the season, I can't help but to favor them in a rematch. And to me, the numbers, the eye test, whatever you want to say, I've got Oregon by like 15 or 16 points here.
Whoa.
Like, I think they
Them's
comfortably...
fighting words,
Ty,
dude.
you know what today is. You know what this weekend is. It's not Friday, but I still think it's part of Stefani's Saturday.
You and me.
So, I don't know if we're aligned, you and me, but I think they're going to get after Michael Penix. He looks like a different guy. Rome Odunze might be the single best offensive player in this game in terms of how dangerous he is, maybe outside of Bo Nix and Rome Odunze. And that's a big deal. But I don't think you can back shoulder throw your way to beating this Oregon team. I think there's too many guys, even with an injury at corner, a key injury at corner to Jaleel Florence, his status is unknown, and they were able to take advantage of some corner injuries the last time they played in the second half. I think there are too many ways for Oregon to win. I think this is an LRO, luck running out situation for Washington. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but these are the indicators for me that I think the pass rush is going to be there, that I think Oregon has too many advantages at too many positions. They're too deep, and I think they're playing at such a high level right now. This team is playing with an electricity. Washington just getting by Arizona State, just getting by Wazoo, just getting by, whoever in the back half of this season. Oregon State, after Oregon just beat them by 24, and it could have been by 34. I don't know. I'm not there.
Let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
You do remember that this Washington team beat Oregon, right?
I do.
You do remember that.
I do.
All the way back middle of October. That still happened, yeah? Because the way you're talking, it's like, poof,
Did Oregon have opportunities to win that game? Or was it like a clean, comfortable win for Washington at Washington? Is this game at Washington?
Game was at Washington. It was never going to be a comfortable game.
Are seasons living, breathing things?
They're living, breathing things.
Did
Just
Alabama
checking.
beat Georgia in the SEC championship and then lose to them promptly thereafter in the national championship? Like, come on, Ty. We've been following the
Fair.
sport for a long
Look,
time.
I've been pretty clear over the last month. I really like Oregon too.
Okay.
And one reason why is, I don't know, we can't really quantify it. Killer instinct. I always talk about killer instinct here.
Yeah.
You kind of have to watch the games. It's a vibes thing, killer instinct. But you can double check the vibes, at least to some extent, if you look at something like post-game win expectancy. All right.
Sure.
Basically, you take all the nerd stuff, the success rates, the big plays, field position, turnovers. You run them through a computer and you see how many times out of 100 you would still win the game. That's what post-game win expectancy is. Oregon's hit 100% 9 times this season. The only games they didn't were Texas Tech, obviously Washington, and USC, and USC was like 96%. This isn't even looking at the score. Again, this is all the underlying nerd stuff.
Right.
It tells you they're killing teams. They are killing teams this season. There are other stats like adjusted scoring margins and stuff like that that make it seem like Oregon is actually still leaving a lot of meat on the bone. And so to your point, they're good. They've been getting better. And I agree. Momentum this time of year is definitely something that you want if you're going to pick a big game like this. Interestingly, on the Washington side of things, Washington has not hit 100% in that post-game expectancy number since back in week 4.
Right.
So per the computers, they won a coin flip against USC, Utah, and Oregon State. It's just very much a trend. It does not mean that Washington is a fraud.
No, Washington went 12-0. No team had ever gone undefeated throughout the Pac-12 schedule until this year's Washington team. They're very good.
It does not mean that they are a fraud. It does not mean that they are not good. It just means that they have left some room for doubt. And I think that's what we're both speaking to here. Yeah. Notably, Washington outplayed Oregon. They beat them the first time around. Rerun that game through the computer and Washington wins 78% of the time.
I totally agree. And
so,
this is still a matchup sport, right? That maybe there were bad matchups there for Washington thereafter, but Oregon, the common opponents, Oregon beat by 27 and Washington beat by 9.
I think Oregon had a great game plan last time around. They ran for over 200 yards. They controlled 10 more minutes of clock. They gained 541 yards. They were 10 of 16 on third downs, which is all that stuff's incredible.
Yeah.
Washington didn't really stop their offense. With the exception of that big fourth down play with 2 minutes, 11 seconds left on the clock, they didn't stop Oregon. I ran this game through my computer for whatever that's worth.
Okay.
I came out with 40. Thank you. 41-31 Oregon.
Yeah.
Is what I came out with. That tracks with the point spread. That tracks with the total, which is, when I jotted this down, 66.5. I don't know if it's moved, but it's in the neighborhood. It does not track with the fact, though, that Oregon also had trouble stopping Washington in that first game.
Totally.
As indicated by 36-33, the final score. And it doesn't track with everything that we know and love about Michael Penix Jr. He might be hurt. He might be a little bit off rhythm. He might be going through some stuff as evidenced by the end of that game a week ago where he just had his head in the tent or the towel. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. It's a long season. He's not going to sleepwalk into this game. This is the biggest game of his career. He's also going up against the Oregon secondary that, as you said before, has been banged up. So this is all a very long way of saying
they've got a safety wearing a catcher's mitt for a pad. Yeah.
I think this game's a lot like the first one. I think it's a back and forth offensive battle with a few key moments and decisions that decide the difference. Computer says Oregon by 10. My brain says Oregon wins 38-31 and Washington covers.
I have 38-21. Washington scored how many points? They scored 24. They needed the entirety of the four quarters against against Washington State. Scored 24, 22 against Oregon. Like they just offense isn't there like it's been.
Isn't. No, I can relate to that point. And the good news, I think for me, is that after a long year of bad picks, this is one of those heads I win, tails you lose situation because my computer says Oregon covers and my brain says Washington covers. Either way, can't lose.
So the other thing concern-wise for Oregon, if I'm trying to be as three-dimensional as possible, Oregon's kicking game is in a down place right now. So I don't know if that's a concern as much as expect a lot of fourth down attempts. Even if it's 4th and 6 from like the 38, something like that. in field goal. That's not technically field goal range for anybody other than, I guess, Harrison Mevis. But like, if there is that, like, they should probably kick it here moment like there was last time, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
Now, if it's coming after a turnover right before the half and it's a clock thing, maybe. I think probably Dan Lanning is correcting those mistakes. But I don't know if there's a ton of faith in the kicking game right now after some recent struggles. And so I think everything's going to be thrown at the wall here for Oregon in those, 4th and goals, 3rd and goals, 4th and 1s, 4th and 3s. Like, I really do think once again, it's not learning from your mistakes as in punt it or kick the field goal. It's in come up with better plays and execute them better.
So we disagree,
Yes.
sort of.
Yeah.
Shall we go to the next game?
Let's.
Give me Gwen. Can I hear Gwen, please?
Of course.
You and me.
Thank you. Let's
We're
go
probably
to the
going to
Dr.
agree on this one, but yeah.
Dr. Pepper Big 12 Championship game, AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Saturday, high noon on ABC. It is Oklahoma State at 9-3. It is Texas at 11-1. Texas is favored by 14.5 points. Frankly, Texas needs a lot to go right. A lot to go right this weekend if they want to get in the playoff. The College Football Playoff Committee, in its latest batch of rankings, did them no favors. Oregon wins. Washington wins. That team is obviously Washington wins. But Oregon wins. I think they're in. Florida State wins. I think they're in.
Yeah.
Texas wins. They need help. That's just where we're at. So I kind of did my whole preview here yesterday and then tore it up a little bit.
Okay.
Upon seeing the rankings, and we could talk through why. These teams didn't play during the regular season, but I did find some fun stats about this matchup that maybe can help guide you as you are making your Run the Board pick. Again, playruntheboard.com or just going out to our website, verballers.com, if you want to get in on this week's pick'em pool, playing for the $100 Pristine auction credit and the $200 Amazon gift card. Just throwing it out there again.
Oh, I love it.
Mike Gundy, 7-3 straight up against Texas over the last 10 years. In the last 6 meetings of this game, the margin of victory has been 7-8, 7-6, 3-3. It's exclusively been a one-score game over that span. Also, Oklahoma State won this game last year. You may recall on the back of Spencer Sanders, had something like 391 yards passing. Also a defense that picked off Quinn Ewers 3 times. Mm-hmm. So, that being said,
different year, different
we've
game.
Been saying that, right?
Different
We've been
location.
saying,
Yep, of course.
You're picking up what I'm putting down here.
Yeah.
We've been saying it all season that this is a different Texas team. It feels tougher, feels more balanced, feels like the defense is more legit. Is this Texas team different enough to cover a 14.5 point spread against Oklahoma State? They have not covered a spread that large since back in 2014. Is this Texas team different enough? And I would also posit this is a Texas team that needs to pad its stats. They need to pad stats.
What is the big advantage that you see Oklahoma State having, if any, in this game?
None.
I kind of disagree. I think Mike Gundy is an advantage over Steve Sarkisian until proven otherwise.
Other than Mike Gundy. Okay. Other than Mike Gundy, which I think, spoken to.
Yeah.
Other than Mike Gundy, nothing.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think they have a better running back currently because of Ollie Gordon's health as opposed to Jonathan Brooks, unfortunately. So that's an advantage. Doesn't mean the offensive line is better. The offensive line has been pretty good since the slow start, Oklahoma State's. They've had one pretty horrific week where Texas hasn't, and that was against UCF, I believe, right? Where they lose like 45-3. They just couldn't get anything going.
After Bedlam.
After Bedlam, a letdown moment, of course. Texas hasn't separated itself consistently from clearly lesser teams, which is, again, something I'd like to see from playoff caliber teams. You look at the back half of their schedule, you're dealing with Malik Murphy in some of these games, not Quinn Ewers, but like they didn't separate from TCU in the end. They didn't separate from Houston in the end. And Texas would be much more of a no-brainer here if they had. Now, the problem with Oklahoma State is, one, we're into almost December. So we're talking about winter wonders. They do not have that, whereas Texas does. Texas has receivers that are problems. Texas has an offensive line that's a huge advantage. Oklahoma State's defense isn't incredible. Colin Oliver is, but as a defense, they're not incredible. So The number once again in the second we're doing this show?
14.5. It's been fluctuating between 14.5 and 15, somewhere right around 2 touchdowns.
I don't think I see them covering. I see them comfortably winning this game, but I see it in like the 10, 11 point range, similar to how you saw the Washington-Oregon game going. Like there is a team that is more talented, it has more depth, but look, I don't think Oklahoma State's winning this game unless, like, what is the over-under of yardage that Ollie Gordon has to have? Like 211 and a half?
It has to be a lot. Yeah, it has to be a lot.
He has to, like, he's going to have to score 3 touchdowns that are of at least 40 or 50 yards for me for them to win this game. And I don't see that happening. There is still something about Texas and not having that killer instinct. Last week, it was the defense that was pushing the offense forward with all those scoring opportunities and those interceptions.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still think there is a certain amount of due that I haven't given to Mike Gundy. And I don't know, how many inches away were they from beating Baylor in this game a couple years ago?
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a nice game plan. I think they're going to make plays, but I think that lack of star power at receiver is going to hurt them. I think the lack of consistent pass rush is going to hurt them. 30-20 Texas here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, you're not wrong to bring up that Texas has played some closer games over the back half of the season. Since losing to Oklahoma, 1-score games against Houston, Kansas State, and TCU, they probably should have lost that K-State game.
Yeah.
Now, they won by 50 last week.
And that's a
against
Malik
Texas
Murphy
Tech.
game. Yeah.
Malik Murphy game. Won by 50 last week against Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Clearly, Texas is a playoff caliber team. They have to really try and show it here in this game. The common denominator in all of those close Texas games this year has been good quarterback play on the other side. Now, there's probably some debate over what constitutes good. I've got that in air quotes.
Yeah.
However, there has not been a singular instance where an opponent has been very lopsided in favor of the run and they hung with Texas. It hasn't happened. And I think that's the worry for me. British comedy legend Alan Bowman needs to be an actual legend here if they want to win this game. And I'm not sure he's got it in him. He's thrown 6 interceptions his last 3 games. He's got more interceptions than touchdowns this season. And Texas is a ball hawking defense. They've got the 9th most interceptions this season across FPS. It is not a team that goes crazy with the blitz, nor does it need to. They pick their spots. They're very successful when they do so. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for that in this game. That, to me, is the difference. That is why I think Texas wins. I think the Pokes defense, in addition, is too prone to big plays. They don't get enough pressure. There's just a lot here working against them. But there is a coaching advantage.
See, that's the thing that worries me. And like if you're dealing strictly with talent, strictly with ceilings, like Texas should win this game 44-17. There is something about the ether of Stillwater and Austin that bothers me. And I hate that it's me making something up essentially, but it's bothersome to me that Mike Gundy finds a way against this team. Maybe he just takes it more seriously in game planning and prep that week. Texas week is something special to him that, maybe his focus waxes and wanes, but I don't know. I hate it. I hate the pick, but I'm going with it.
My lock is actually a different spin on this game.
Okay.
Lock of the week.
I think they're going to be points.
Okay.
I'm going over 56.5. I don't do over-unders, but in a game like this, it just feels like Texas is going to be trying to score as much as humanly possible. Oklahoma State plays quickly. I think there's going to be points here. I think it's 42-28. I want the points. I think Texas wins, but Mike Gundy just doesn't get blown out by Texas. So I want the points.
I'm with you. I mean, I'm going with the under here, but I'm with you in your line of thinking. I think it's reasonable.
Fair enough. Shall we move on? Give me Gwen. Can we hear Gwen again?
Yeah, of course.
You and me.
Thank you, Dan.
Are now moving on to which game?
We're moving on to the SEC Championship game.
Okay.
Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Saturday, 4:00 p.m. Eastern Time, CBS. It is the Georgia Bulldogs at 12-0, -5.5 against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama's only loss was to Texas. They are 11-1. Again, another instance where these teams did not play during the regular season. But as the SEC started working itself out back in like week 6, it became increasingly clear that we were on track for this one. And it is a monster matchup, absolute monster matchup. Interesting point of overlap here is that Auburn game. Both teams played tight against Auburn. Little old Auburn, who lost, 2 weeks ago? Whatever it was, to New Mexico State out of nowhere. Georgia was tied in that game with Auburn at 20 apiece until late in the fourth quarter. Alabama last week in the Iron Bowl needed the miracle throw. 4th and 31, 4th and goal. Back corner, Isaiah Bond. Incredible way to win a game. If you look at the box scores, very, very similar for both Georgia and Alabama in how they played against Auburn. Peyton Thorne had a lot of success running the ball. Likely something you'll see here when Alabama goes out on offense on Saturday. But just an interesting point of overlap. I thought that Auburn game and how similar it looked for both sides of this. Do you have a lean here? This is a great game. What a great game.
I'm leaning Georgia. Alabama scored 20 points against Auburn with a miraculous play. Like, there is something worrisome about this year's Alabama team offensively still, that the offensive line has improved, haven't played a front like Georgia's.
How much value do you put on that, though? Was that a weird rivalry week thing to you that we kind of gloss over because you throw the records out in rivalry week? Or do you think it is a larger indictment of the Bama offense?
What has Alabama done this year? Like, look at the actual results in the actual games and the actual way that they did or didn't separate themselves from deeply flawed teams. Whether it's USF without Jalen Milroe, whether it's Arkansas, whether it's Texas A&M. It's close against LSU, and they're up comfortably, relatively comfortably when Jaden Daniels gets hurt. They can't handle Auburn on the ground. Like, what is it about this year's Alabama? They're not running the ball all that consistently well. Jalen Milroe is very good downfield, but is not necessarily a finished product as a quarterback, right? Like, can he make the obvious 3rd and 7 throw? Now, if you can pick up the yardage with your legs every time, who am I to question you? I just think the game plan Georgia's going to formulate on defense for him is going to be unlike what the rest of Alabama's schedule could even consider doing against Jalen Milroe. And so I think Alabama's a good team, but what is the single result this year that would tell you that Alabama is once again like in the range of elite?
Well,
what is the result? That they killed Kentucky? That's it?
I think
the
now
one?
it's hard for me to say this, given what happened last week. I do feel, and we've talked about it on the show all year, I feel like Alabama's offense and specifically Jalen Milroe have improved by leaps and bounds.
Okay.
So if we're going to use that as ammo on ammo and sort of like the backing for, at least in part, our Oregon pick,
right?
It feels right that we would also use it and give Alabama its due here and maybe look at them a little bit more seriously in this matchup because they have been trending in a good direction.
They needed a miraculous 4th and goal from the 31-yard line to beat Auburn.
I get it.
They might be better than Oregon, but I don't think it's apples to apples.
Okay.
I don't think it's apples to apples that, like, yes, the offense has improved over the course of the season. They're not scoring 45 a game. They're not beating teams by 28 a game, by 21 a game. Like, there's a reason results are what they are. And once you have 12 games of data, you can say Alabama's a very good team. Their excellence is not obvious, at least to a dum-dum like myself. And so I'm going Georgia here, who I think gets up for these games. I don't think Georgia's as good as they've been these past couple of seasons. And they haven't separated themselves in the way that I think excellent teams do. But I believe with the continuity that they've had, that I'm just a bigger believer in Carson Beck and the offensive line at Georgia, and Brock Bowers getting healthier by the week.
Okay.
There was turnover stuff against Georgia Tech. It still never really felt in doubt, even though what the final score was relatively close.
Yeah, 7 point. Yeah.
I think Georgia gets up for these big games. I think they pick their spots in a different way. And look, they didn't separate themselves from a very good Mizzou team. Like, you can call Georgia's 2023 excellence into question. Schedule was great for them, but there's not a ton where you can point at and be like, oh yeah, they played a playoff caliber team here. So if that's a toss-up between teams whose, again, excellence isn't obvious, I'm going to go with Georgia here because Jalen Milroe is still too much of a wild card, both in an unbelievably crazy impressive way, and also, I don't know if he has it against this Georgia defense in the way that he's been able to muster it through the air against some other teams. So I'm going Georgia here.
People are going to sling some arrows at me for this because it's going to sound like I'm dunking on Georgia or like I'm selling Georgia short. I promise you I am not trying to be a contrarian.
Yeah.
I think Alabama can ask questions of Georgia, of the Georgia offense and defense, frankly, that Georgia has not been asked so far this season. It strikes me as a really challenging matchup for the Dogs.
Sure.
About midway through this, it hit me. This is a little like Georgia playing against Ole Miss, except an Ole Miss team that's got an offensive line and an Ole Miss team that can actually stop the pass.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of similarity here. It has taken a while for the Tommy Rees version, we should say, of the Nick Saban offense to gel. It is not a finished product, but I feel like I am starting to see the fully formed vision of what he wanted Notre Dame to be when he was there. And that was a combination.
Find a quarterback who can just beat everybody to the edge all of the time. Yeah.
He tried that. Didn't work as well with Drew Pine.
Yeah.
But the combination of the power running game with the mobile quarterback who can beat you over the top, was the arm strength to beat you over the top. This is very much not a Dunkin' Donuts offense. It's not what he ran last year with Drew Pine because Drew Pine is the size of like Jalen Milroe's bicep. It's just a different game when you're at Alabama. This is an offense that averages 12 air yards per attempt, the third most in the nation. Jalen Milroe is clearly stretching the field. And that combination of a guy who can scramble but also beat you deep with the offensive line that they have, which can push you around and run it down your throat, that's a math problem for Georgia. It's a math problem. Now, Jace McClellan tweaked his foot last week. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't for Roydell Williams. It's not a given that Bama can run the ball on Georgia. If I'm Kirby Smart, try and beat me through the air. I'll stack the box.
Right. And everybody's thinking that, right? Everybody tries to do
it.
that against Alabama, but Georgia has the actual manpower to succeed.
They've got the manpower. If Jalen Milroe is sitting back in the pocket because a guy is spying him because they can't run and he's got to like decipher a zone, Georgia wins. Georgia wins. So I think either running traditionally up the middle, trying to play bully ball against Georgia, or Jalen Milroe breaking contain. One of those things going right for Alabama puts them in a really, really good spot in this game. So I'm interested to see how they defend against Jalen Milroe.
Of course.
This is also the best defense that Georgia's played all season.
Yep.
It's not really close. It's not close. Carson Beck's been incredible, but this secondary is a totally different animal, Dan. It is. I think he'll be fine because all season we've been waiting for him to get flustered, and it hasn't happened. The guy doesn't get flustered. It sounds like Jalen Key, Deontay Lawson are going to be back for Bama, both of whom have been banged up. It'll be nice to have them out there. I'm just curious to see how he does against what I believe to be a better secondary than he's seen all season. So, I'm throwing stuff against the wall.
Malachi Starks is so real. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm throwing some stuff against the wall. I get that. I acknowledge that. But I did not come away from my studying on this game feeling as confident in Georgia as I was when I started. I still think they win.
Okay.
My prediction is 27-21 Georgia. I still trust that they won't make the big mistake in a high leverage moment. That's what you get from Carson Beck. That's not necessarily what you get from Jalen Milroe. He's been better. No doubt about it. Not sure I trust him.
No doubt about it.
Not sure I trust him. I like the fact that it's a home game for Georgia. It's going to be loud in Atlanta. I like Alabama's progress, but I just think Georgia is much more of a finished product at this point. So I'm taking Georgia 27-21. I would not be at all surprised if Alabama covers, if Alabama wins. I would not be.
Yeah, here
my official pick is 27-21 Georgia.
Yeah, I think it might even be a little bit more high scoring than that. I have 33-24 Georgia. And my thinking is both of these teams haven't been great against the run, as you mentioned, with what Auburn was able to do on the ground against these teams. And so I think Georgia is going to give up a huge play, probably to Jalen Milroe on the ground. But I think Alabama is going to be able to convert a bunch of third and shorts. And I think there are going to be points in this game. But I think the ability to adjust to Jalen Milroe, where Georgia can spy, can effectively cut off or trick him into things, I think that's the advantage. 33-24 Georgia.
So we sort of
agree. Yeah.
Sort of agree. Shall we move on?
Let's.
Give me Gwen. I like the Gwen sound.
Yeah, of course you do.
We should add that permanently to the soundboard.
Who are you and me? This is bad English, but who are you and me talking about now?
Let's talk about the Michigan game.
Let's.
Big
we don't
Ten
have to spend a lot of
championship.
time on this. Okay, good.
Big Ten Championship, Lucas Oil Stadium. They played in Indianapolis. Saturday, 8 p.m. on Fox. It's a Gus game, Gus and Joel. Michigan minus 23.5. They are obviously 12-0. They are squaring off against 10-2 Iowa. Why not? They went 10-2 this year, but there are some qualifiers to that for sure. These two teams did not play during the regular season. Good on Iowa for not having to deal with Michigan. I'm going to say something here. It's going to sound incredibly mean. I'm not trying to be mean. We are previewing 10 games today.
Yeah.
This is the only one in which the underdog has a 0% chance of winning. There is a 0% chance that Iowa's going to win this game. Absolutely no chance. Do you agree, disagree?
Oh, I agree.
Rebut?
Yeah.
There is no chance they win this game. In fact, I am fairly certain they're not getting to 10 points. I posted this on Twitter yesterday. The odds of Iowa scoring under 10.5 points is minus 445, which is ridiculous. There a lot of people out there who don't bet. What does that mean? That means you would need to bet $445 to win 100 on your bet.
Yeah.
You don't make that bet unless it's part of something else, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Unless it's part of something else to give you better odds. You don't make that bet. It's a dumb bet. I'm interested in seeing Michigan's offense against another good defense. That gives us a data point. I'm okay with watching that. I will watch that. Of course, we will watch that. But Michigan's going to win, and I feel like the commentary in this game is going to devolve into the next episode of the Joel Klatt podcast. That's what happens in these kinds of games, because I don't think Iowa's getting 10 points. I don't think Iowa's getting 7 points. I don't know if Iowa's scoring more than 3 points.
How many defensive touchdowns would they need to beat Michigan?
4.
4 defensive touchdowns. No Cooper to Gene. All right, that's reasonable.
I have it 31-0 Michigan.
31-0. I think. What did I write down? I think I had 35-7. I think they get on the board. 35-7. Michigan by 28. 28's the number that I zeroed in on. Yeah, Look, if you are constructing some sort of case, not for Iowa to win, but for this to be weird and close, it's a letdown spot. Jim Harbaugh's back, though, which I think is a clear advantage for Michigan here. I don't know, man. If they muck it up and it's 7-3 at halftime, sure. But otherwise, Iowa's just not going to possess the ball. Iowa also has a great punter. So there's that.
Torrey Taylor, yeah. I'll set the over-under at 7.5 Torrey Taylor punts in this game.
Yeah.
If you want to have like an interesting side bet. But I just I don't know what I'm betting on.
There probably is a number.
Well, I looked up the number. There's not an official bet on the board anywhere.
Of over-under punts.
But the number would be 7.5.
Okay.
That's the tie line. That's what they would set it at.
Yeah. 35-7. Eventually, everything breaks loose for Michigan, much like it did a couple years ago. That's a Cade McNamara game.
Mm-hmm.
I think both game. But, I have Michigan big here. I think it's going to be a big day for receivers, Colson Loveland, eventually. And I think Michigan's probably going to, there's a good chance Michigan scores twice on defense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A scoop and score, a pick or something like that. So, yep, there's my score.
All right, let's move on. One more, Gwen, please.
Of course.
We'll just do one more.
You and me.
ACC Championship, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It is the Louisville Cardinals at 10-2. It is the Florida State Seminoles at 12-0. These teams did not play during the regular season. This line has fallen dramatically. When I made our doc on Sunday night, Dan, it was 5.5 in favor of Florida State. Now it's the Noles minus 2.5, which is a precipitous drop. You understand why, of course.
Well, it was Tate Rodemaker when the line originally came out.
Sure. There's a Jordan Travis factor here. The market said it was not factored in enough. Whatever the quarterback situation at Florida State needs to come down a little bit more. So it's at Florida State minus 2.5 points, Dan. I am very torn on this one.
Do you have the number, by the way? Sometimes you do this. Sometimes you find the number of what more the money is going in this game, or the bets, the percentage of the bets, the percentage of the money. Like, is this a fade the public situation that like 93% of the bets are in on Louisville?
Yeah, I mean, as I pull it up here, is
this a quarterback health situation? Tate Rodemaker and the hit he took at the end of the game, and questioning what he'll be able to do or not do in this game?
We've got 80% of the money on Louisville right now and 52% of the bets. So about a 28% delta between bets and money. A lot of people on Louisville. That's why the line came down in the way that it did.
A lot of money on Louisville. The people are pretty much split. Yeah.
A lot of money on Louisville.
I'd love to see Louisville win this just because of the story involved with year one, Jack Plummer, Jeff Brom, everything like that. They haven't been great. They haven't been great lately. And so now you're saying, does a very strong Florida State defense, rushing attack, maybe an average quarterback for Florida State, is that a formula to beat a recently not great ACC team? I think it's still tough in a game like this to bring an average quarterback, maybe average quarterback. Look, maybe he's incredible against Louisville. Who knows? I like Louisville here. I like Louisville here just because there is something certain about what they're going to look like on offense. And I don't have that with Florida State. And Florida State is a more talented team. They're a really well-coached team. I love the defensive line. But I still think when you talk about like what number do you need to get to win this game, I still have more questions about Florida State getting to that number, whatever it is, 27, 28, 30. And so I'm rolling with Louisville to win outright here. And I don't love it because you lose to Pitt. That doesn't fill me with much
I jotted that down.
Happiness. Lose to Kentucky the way that they did.
They lost to Kentucky. The loss back in week 7 at Pitt was almost inconceivable.
Yeah.
And I think if we kind of zoom out and look at Louisville, there's a pretty strong body of evidence that you can't fully trust them. And in obvious letdown look-ahead spots, they bottom out.
Yeah.
That's not going to be a factor here. Obviously, that's not going to be a factor here. Louisville knows that Florida State, given the injury, is gettable. And so they've had this game circled for a while. My guess is that they've got it doubly circled now.
Going to sell out against the run. We know,
sell out against the run.
Yeah.
Sell out against the run. I mean, this is probably a run-first offense now for Florida State. It has to be.
Yeah.
I hate to make this all about Notre Dame, but I'll harken back to the Notre Dame game. What did we say going into that game? What I said was Louisville can't stop Notre Dame's run. And what Louisville did is they held Notre Dame to 1.6 yards per carry. They can stop a good ground game if it's telegraphed. It was in the Notre Dame game. It is now. Bit of a different situation here. You're not going to worry about Mitchell Evans and Jordan Faison the way you're going to worry about Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman.
Yeah, ridiculous.
But I think Louisville's crafty enough to put pressure on the quarterback, whether it's Tate Rodemaker or anybody else. I think they can take away that run game and put this game schematically on its ear.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure the Florida State defense would like a word here. Talking a lot about the offense. But this is a team that is not blitzing a ton, but they've consistently gotten pressure. One of the best pass rushing units in America. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Jack Plummer is some sort of trusted college football Sherpa. He's got 11 picks this season.
Yeah.
He also needs a ground game to work so that they can open up things with the play action pass. That's sort of Louisville's deal. Even if it's just a big play to keep Florida State honest, and the Noles are prone to that on the ground, Louisville needs something like that. They can't get into a pickleball fest with Florida State. They will lose. It'll be 17-13. They'll lose. So my thought here is, as we're closing out the night, as we're closing out the season, I'm going to harken back to my roots and to the wise prophet Ashanti.
Oh, God. It's about trust?
It's about trust, babe. It's about trust.
Do you trust
Florida
Jack
State's
Plummer,
quarterback?
though? You just got through with it, talking about the picks.
Do you trust Florida State's quarterback?
Not especially. But, okay, here's the other side of it, Ty. If you gave Tate Rodemaker, unknown quantity, fall camp, spring practice, and Louisville's roster, is he that much different than Jack Plummer? Maybe different from Jake Plummer.
Definitely
I would
different
say
than Jake
so.
the Snake, yeah.
From Jack Plummer. Like, I'm not the biggest Jack Plummer guy still. Like, I think he's fine. I think he's done a good job. That's the question to me, is like, did you love Jack Plummer coming into this season?
He's been good. They're also airing it out with Jack Plummer. It's
They
not
are.
dink and dunk.
Man, I'm still on Louisville. I'm not changing my mind. I'm going no doubt, right? It's Stefani Saturday, no doubt Louisville. But I did go back and forth on this one just because of the Jordan Travis factor. It's tough.
I'm on Louisville 24-20. I think they went outright.
Okay.
And it's also a Jake Locker pick of the week. Jake.
Lock of the week.
I think you need to explain what that is, because I don't know if
I
people
explained
think
it
that
before.
Jake Locker works for us.
No, Jake Locker doesn't work for us. We have a guy named Jake who helps us with social
Yes.
media, does a terrific job. And he's been money so far with his locks this year.
Yeah.
Now, one of the locks I gave out lost, but the other pushed, and I think the other won. We've only been doing it a couple of weeks, but
Yeah.
I've named this the Jake Locker of the week.
Yeah. All right.
He's on Louisville. I'm on Louisville. You're on Louisville.
Yes, correct. We agree.
Before we get to our G5 games, Dan, I
Yeah.
want to give a shout out to Mark H1234.
Okay.
Fun, informative show, 5 stars. This is out on Apple. The
Oh.
Solid Verbal is fun and informative. The show does a good job embracing the culture of college football. The hosts are fun personalities, Dan. There you go. A must listen during college football season. Thank you, Mark H1234. You can get on the show too. Go out and leave us a 5-star rating and review.
Oh, man. That would be wonderful if you could leave us a 5-star rating and good review, but if you feel it in your bones and marrow only.
Conference USA Championship Friday, 7 p.m., CBS Sports Network. It is the New Mexico State Aggies.
Yeah.
10-3 on the road, squaring off against Liberty in Lynchburg, Virginia at Williams Stadium. Liberty is favored by 10. Liberty won 33-17 back in week 2. I don't know what happened in that Auburn game 2 weeks ago. I have no idea what happened there.
Spot. I think it was a look ahead spot, Ty.
I don't know what it was. Probably a look ahead spot. That was not the Auburn team that we expected. New Mexico State's, I talked about post-game win expectancy earlier with Oregon. New Mexico State's post-game was 100% in that Auburn game. They kicked the crap out of the Auburn Tigers. They're on an 8-game win streak right now. Their story has been a defense that has overperformed projections. Honestly, the projections never really recovered from a really low preseason ranking, 126 nationally, and the loss back in week 0 to UMass. So my computer's got this one at 33-21 Liberty. I think I'm going to go Liberty minus the number because the offense is incredible. They've got a great rushing team, which is still the way you want to attack New Mexico State. And their defense is way better than most people realize. So I'm a Liberty minus whatever.
I think New Mexico State covers. They've been especially good against the spread. Vegas has not been able to figure out the Aggies. I think there's something like 10-2 against the spread this year.
Yeah. Right.
I think they're able to keep this a game. I think what you're doing is disrespecting another sweet D, Diego Pavia, another D. I think there is something about this New Mexico State team, and it's hard to gauge because you don't play a lot of good teams in this conference.
It's tough. It's tough. And Jerry Kill's a great story.
He's a very good coach. Jamie Chadwell's a very good coach.
I know.
I think this is tight. I think this is back and forth.
Okay.
I think New Mexico State are gamers. You're right about the defense being an issue, especially against the run. You're right about Liberty's dominance, but it's hard to gauge against a schedule like this. So I'm saying close. New Mexico State covers, but I'm going to give the nod to Liberty by a touchdown.
MAC Championship at Ford Field. This one's Saturday at high noon on ESPN. It's Miami, Ohio at 10-2, scoring off against Toledo. The Rockets are 11-1 and a 7.5 point favorite. Toledo won by 4, 21-17 back in week 8, but Brett Gabbert Miami's quarterback, went down for the season in that game. Since then, they've been rolling with Avion Smith at quarterback for the Redhawks.
And it's still Daquan Finn for Toledo, yeah.
Still Daquan Finn. Daquan Finn has been awesome this season. He's had another solid season, but the switch over to Avion Smith for Miami, they're a different team. They're a different team now. Best defense.
The great defense. But
in
again,
MAC.
So many bad offenses on this schedule.
So many bad offenses. Maybe the best special teams in America. So they're doing a lot of it right. This is just not a potent offense. They're going to have to win an Iowa-style game with turnovers and field position, and they got to do it against a team who can score. We talked about Daquan Finn. I am not crazy about that half point. I think it's something low scoring. I think Toledo wins. 24-13 Toledo.
I think that's exactly where I would go, somewhere in there. So, yeah, I have Toledo. I'm going to say, 27-13. I think it's a couple touchdowns, a couple scores worth. The lack of pop from Miami, apparently, is enough for me.
Mountain West Championship.
Yes.
These teams did not play during the regular season. It's Boise. It is UNLV. Boise's 7-5. They're favored by 2.5 points.
Yes.
It is UNLV, 9-3, basically playing a home game here. It is a home game.
It is.
Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, 3 p.m. Saturday on Fox. Interestingly, Allegiant Stadium hosting back-to-back college football championship games.
The two most important ones, yeah.
They got the Pac-12 game on Friday, the UNLV home game on Saturday afternoon. I'm going to go Boise.
Why?
I'm going to go Boise. I feel like Boise's losses aren't bad losses, and it seems like they responded the exact opposite way that I expected after getting rid of Andy Avalos. I expected that it would be a bottom-out type of situation, 1-2-3 Cancun. Instead, they played hard. They got to this game by virtue of computer rankings or whatever they did out west. And I feel like Boise State is still a prohibitive favorite in any of these big Mountain West games. I have a hard time betting against them, even though UNLV's been a great story. It's close. The line is 2.5 points. I'm going to say 30-27 Boise wins.
UNLV, I believe, has the special teams edge. And that's always good when you start out a preview with that, right? I like UNLV here. I don't like the snip-snap element of Boise's quarterback season. I don't like losing your best receiver to the portal a few weeks ago. Love Ashton Ginty. But this is another winter wonder situation where I think I like the consistency of Jaden Mayava. I think that's how you pronounce it. I think the defensive game plan from Barry Odom and the Rebels will be strong and sound against this Boise State team, who, you're right, did win. They beat up on a pretty down Utah State team. And UNLV did lose, I believe, to San Jose last week. No. But even still, the Boise defense has kind of fallen off a cliff this year. It leveled out a little bit, but I'm still not crazy about that. This defense on the road in this spot, I'm going with UNLV to finish the job.
Let's go to the American Championship. This is a good game. Yulman Stadium in New Orleans.
Ooh, look at you.
Saturday,
flavor.
4 o'clock ABC. SMU at 10-2 on the road at Tulane at 11-1. Tulane favored by 3.5 points. My tie computer has this as 26-23 SMU.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't buy that.
Okay.
You're
going analog with your pick.
Yeah, these teams didn't play during the regular season. We barely talked about SMU other than the weird move over to the ACC.
They haven't played teams.
They're 10-2. They lost to Oklahoma and at TCU. Otherwise, they haven't lost since September, ripped off like 8 straight. Preston Stone was having a great year at quarterback, 3,200 yards, 28 touchdowns. Last week, he broke his leg.
Yeah.
Huge freaking bummer for SMU. Now it's Kevin Jennings. He steps in. He's seen a fair amount of action, yet to throw an interception in the time that he has seen snaps. This is just a tall order for him. This is a tall order for him on the road against a Tulane team that's been here before. I'm on Tulane 27-17 at home.
I'm right there with you. I like Tulane. I like them probably comfortably because of the injury to Stone. Still disappointed his name isn't Stone Preston, but that's a me problem. Tulane hasn't been incredible running the ball. They put up yardage, but the efficiency hasn't been there. You know, Tyjae Spears was just a revelation last year. I think Tulane, you saw how fierce that defense can be and havocy that defense could be last week against UTSA, getting hands in passing lanes, getting tipped. Like, I just think there's too much defense for Tulane. And SMU has been great on defense this year. I just don't think they're going to be able to get it done with a backup quarterback in this one. So, yeah, I like the Green Wave here by, 10 or 13.
And last but certainly not least, Sun Belt Championship, playing it at Troy in Alabama.
No James Madison.
No James Madison.
Yeah.
4:00 ESPN. App State 8-4. Troy 10-2. Troy is favored by 6.5 points. These teams again did not play during the regular season. App State's won 5 in a row, including the win over James Madison a couple weeks ago. Troy's won 9 in a row. Two teams that are playing really well down the stretch. I want the points here. I want the points. App State's defense has really stepped up the last month of this season. They've won the last 5 meetings. I could see them winning outright here. I think I still favor Troy, but I've got it at 28-24 Trojans with App State covering.
It's just, Ty, we're just normal men here.
We're just normal men.
You know this, and we've just been doing this show for too long. 27-24.
Wow.
It's because of the defense that I think Troy ultimately wins this game. And in a game that you believe will be tight, who's getting stops, right? Like that's underthinking, right? I'm still the engineer of the Underthink Express. I don't love the App State offense. I love the way they played on the road at JMU in a silencer moment, but I don't know. I'm still here with Troy. So give me the defense, give me the home team. That's where I'm going. Veterans Stadium?
Veterans Memorial Stadium.
You got
Troy,
the tie-in to what? Mike Schmidt? Wasn't it the old vet?
Wasn't
that the name of the stadium? Am I making that up?
Veterans Stadium.
Yeah.
Seen many a game there. Yeah.
All right.
Want to give a shout out to Pass the Ball 40 out on Twitter.
Okay. Why pass the ball?
Said he wouldn't want to celebrate Ryan Day's demise with anyone else. And he says, thanks for a great year. Solid verbal. He's got his Spotify wrapped graphic. You know, anybody who's got Spotify, who listens to Spotify, they're doing the Spotify wrap thing. You get to see what podcasts you listen to. We've got a lot of people tweeting us, sending us messages out on Instagram. Please do tag us. We're going to retweet. We'll repost all of y'all.
Should also mention, we are going to do a live stream for Alabama, Georgia, Saturday afternoon. So that's what time is kickoff? 3:30, 4 p.m. Eastern. So right in there, solidverballive.com. Cannot wait to do that. Cannot wait for the weekend. I had to turn down my wife for a date Friday night. I'm like, can we be back by 6:55 p.m. Central? No? Well, I don't think it's in the cards. So I love this weekend and can't wait for hopefully a roster of incredible games. And then just maybe all hell breaking loose Sunday with the playoff. Like, do you have any takes at this moment? Because there's a lot of conversation.
I'm reserving my takes.
For when, though? When are you going to give them out?
I'll give them out Saturday night.
Saturday night at the campfire? SolidVerbalLive.com as well?
At the campfire, I'll give them out. Yeah. I just want to watch these games. I'm excited about these games.
But, I mean, I think the takes have come from, like, if this team wins, then this should be the 4. If that team wins, then this should be the 4. There's nothing there for you?
The there for me is the Florida State-Texas predicament. Okay. And Florida State playing with a backup quarterback that is not the same version of itself without Jordan Travis. If Texas looks awesome in a win over Oklahoma State, I think it'll be very, very difficult to leave them out. Very, very difficult to leave them out.
Undefeated Power Conference champ.
I believe they will be left out because an undefeated Power 5 champion in Florida State, which has been really good.
Right.
Tough to leave them out. This is why I hate the 4-team setup, why I'm excited to go to 12 next season. The other thing that I would posit, and you know I said this at the top, there is a chance that Alabama could beat Georgia.
Sure.
However unlikely that is to you, whatever.
No, I picked Georgia, but that doesn't mean I'm not acknowledging that Alabama absolutely could beat Georgia.
If Alabama beats Georgia, all hell breaks loose. That's when all hell breaks loose.
So what happens then?
I mean, you'd have to put Alabama in, wouldn't you?
So a one-loss SEC champ? Absolutely.
And then it comes down to a question that you and I have pondered a couple times over. Is the body of Georgia's work otherwise good enough to get them in as like a 4 seed? I don't know. It hasn't been a great schedule.
So, I mean, look, the actual conversation is, do you believe Georgia is still one of the best 4 teams in the country? based
I do.
purely on eye test and
I
some
do.
combination of eye test and schedule. So do I.
Yeah.
And then you say, okay, so then if Michigan wins, you're saying Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, and who, right? You're saying Florida State, undefeated, unimpeachable. What if they win 13-10 and look kind of like garbage? Unimpeachable?
I don't know. I mean, I think you got to put
But
the
you
winner.
got to know. This is no doubt. This is Stefani Saturday.
You got to put the Pac-12 winner in. Pac-12 winner is in.
Right. So
Whoever
an
that is,
undefeated
they're in.
Washington gets in over an undefeated Florida State in that scenario?
I think so.
In your scenario?
In my scenario, yeah.
So you'd have one loss Georgia in over Florida State.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you think the committee thinks so?
I don't know what the committee thinks. I can't put myself in their heads. I have no idea.
I think
come
they'll
back to this. Let's come back to this on Saturday night. Can I ask a favor of you?
Please.
May I drop that big, stanky, writhing, pulsating drum and fife?
You may. What's going on? Didn't Lafayette lose?
Lafayette lost, but there are still FCS games that I want to talk about. There's
I
two
like
of them,
this.
and here is why. If you go on out to playruntheboard.com and play our pick'em game, we needed 10 games. Typically, we only put games on Saturday and beyond because we want to give you the full week to digest, to listen to the show. I don't like putting Friday games on that slate. So we struck the Oregon game. We struck the other game. What's the other one being played on Friday night? I don't even know. I'm all fired up here.
I think is it the Liberty game?
The Liberty game. Thank you. The Conference USA game. So we've got 2 FCS games on there. You don't have to pick against the spread. I don't even know what the spread is. Mercer at South Dakota State. Mercer beat Gardner-Webb to get there. South Dakota State was on bye because they're the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going Jacks there. Continue.
Bill Connolly says South Dakota State would be the 5th best team in the Pac-12, in the Big 12, and the 7th best team in the Big 10.
Wow. Okay.
All right, so if I'm picking straight up, I am picking straight up.
Yeah.
Got to go South Dakota State.
Next
one is North Dakota State on the road at Montana State in Bozeman. Nobody wants to play in Bozeman. North Dakota State had to play a first-round game last week. They won 66-3 over Drake. They are 9-3 this season. They lost to North Dakota, South Dakota, and South Dakota State. All right, they're keeping their losses local, which I like.
Top 4 Dakota.
Top 4 Dakota. By Bill Connolly's similar measure, North Dakota State is better than teams like Fresno, than teams like Cal, et cetera, et cetera.
Man.
Beyond South Dakota State, they are the next best per his advanced SP Plus, which accommodates like 600 and some odd teams. The 2 losses were both on the road. Bozeman, not an easy place to play. This is a tough matchup to pick, but I'm going to go North Dakota State over Montana State.
I'm going Montana here.
Going Bobcats?
Bozeman is, why am I screwing this up, Ty? Did you say Montana State?
It's Montana State.
Montana State.
These are not
Billings
the Grizzlies.
yeah.
Not the Grizzlies.
I'm still going Montana State here. I think it's a tough place to play. North Dakota State, Big Sky country. I don't trust it, Ty. I don't. No, I'm going North Dakota State.
Let's close things out, shall we?
Yeah.
Ty versus the world.
Steve, le monde, el mundo, Sekai,
Świat.
Ty versus the world.
Presented by DraftKings Sportsbook.
Dan, I'm excited about this. I'm excited about this one today.
Okay.
I don't feel good about it at all.
But you're excited.
I'm excited.
nevertheless.
It's conference championship week.
Yeah.
First one is the one that we agree on. Not just me, not just you, with Jake Locker, lock of the week. We're going Louisville plus 2.5 points. That's first lock. Second lock is the over in that Texas-Oklahoma State game. 56.5-ish, depends where you look. I'll take whatever. I think there's going to be points in that game. I think Texas is trying to play for keeps, trying to get into that playoff. I think Oklahoma State, we've talked about their success against Texas. Mike Gundy just knows how to coach that game. Taking the over in that one, and I'm going to add Tulane minus 3.5 to the card. I feel pretty good about the Green Wave in that matchup. The big old themed parlay is one that I'm calling the Big Blowout Parlay. I'm getting cute with the spelling here. Instead of the B-I-G, it's the B-1-G. You know where I'm going with this, right? Iowa under 0.5 first half points.
Do you get plus money on that?
No.
I think I saw our friend Ari. there was something where like under 0.5 in the first half was plus money. It was like plus 135.
Yeah, it might be plus 100. I think there's been a lot of action on it.
Oh, okay.
All right. It's one of those things that when you realize it, you bet it right away.
Yeah.
I realized it, I bet it right away. I don't think they're scoring this game, let alone the first half. But this gives you an opportunity to bet on Iowa, not scoring in the first half, but maybe scoring in the second.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be the full way through. I've also got Iowa under 10.5 total points. I will eat my shoe if they score over 10 points in this game.
We got to
I don't
come
know
up
how
with
that's
something
even
better. We got to come up with something
possible.
better than just you joking about eating your shoe.
What do you want me to do? I'll wear the big Iowa like Hawkeye beak and head or whatever. Like,
No, let's just get the there's like the chip, like the impossibly spicy chip. You get one single chip. Have you
Okay.
seen that before? Have you seen Shaq try to do it?
I've seen
He
it.
put it in his mouth. He was like, "This is no problem." And then you could see like steam shooting out of his ears as he was trying to hold in the pain. Yeah, let's do the spicy chip.
I will do the spicy chip
Great.
if Iowa scores more than 10 points.
Great.
There's just no chance. of that
10
happening.
or more than 10.
10.5 is the over-under.
Okay, fair.
So I've got a parlay here. Iowa under 0.5 first half points, not scoring in the first half.
Yeah.
Iowa under basically 10 points. 10 points or less the entire game. And then the twist.
By the way, this is going to come down like if Michigan's up 42-7 and it's just all third stringers and at the end of the game, you're going to be on the edge of your seat
This
here.
is going to be problematic.
Yeah.
The final twist here, and it sort of flies in the face of what I said earlier, but I'm giving myself some wiggle room on that. All right. I said 31-0. This would allow for Michigan to win by a 31-3 margin and for you to hit all legs of the bet.
Yeah.
The final leg of this thing is Michigan to win by a margin of 25 to 30 points. Specifically,
Whoa. Okay.
25 to 30 points. You get both Iowa unders. You get that specific margin of victory, 6-1 odds out on our good friends at DraftKings Sportsbook.
All right.
The big blowout parlay.
Can't wait.
Dan, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code SOLID. New customers get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on basketball. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code SOLID. The crown is yours. That's what we got.
That's it. Those are the picks. Stefani Saturday. I'm not going to play it
Saturday.
again. I've played it a lot, but love No Doubt. Love Gwen.
Love Gwen. You got any food plans this weekend?
Make some Detroit pizza Friday night. Probably eat it before the game. We'll eat it with my boys early. And then, I don't know, I'll probably make a pepperoni, jalapeno, shaved garlic, hot honey, something like that.
Listen, we encourage everybody to go out there and play Run the Board. PlayRunTheBoard.com will get you more information on that, or Verballers.com if you want to check out our full-fledged Patreon offering. We also are going to be launching a bowl pool, the Winter Wonders Bowl Confidence Pool, almost the second the games end on Saturday night. We will turn our focus to bowl season and bowl mode and bowl pools, and it will be awesome. Everybody will have an opportunity to play. Details are forthcoming. We've got a wider slate of prizes than ever before.
Yes. Huge
We're very
bowl pool. Yeah.
Very, very excited about what this game has to offer the Verballerhood. Again, would encourage you all to go out there and leave those star ratings and reviews. Send in all of them to us at any of our social media accounts or solidverbal@gmail.com. Of course, our email address. And we will do our best to mention as many as we can and tweet out as many as we can. The Verballerhood's a fun place to be. We appreciate your support. It's the least that we can do.
That's all I have.
For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrand, enjoy college football week 14, college football conference championship week. We'll be back with you late on Saturday night, early on Sunday morning. For myself, Ty, again for him, Dan, stay solid.
Peace.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dkng.co/football for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.